We luckily had a pretty good run of some inshore coastal visibility, and we spent 2 days trying to hunt down some fingermark, barra, and just chase some crayfish and those inshore kind of species. And on the first day, we punched out to a new wreck that I actually hadn't dived before. And so we did a bit of a mixture. We did wrecks, we did some big rocky boulders, and then we went to one of my cray spots and found a couple nice crayfish to end off the day. So this wreck's never been dived by me before, and so it actually took us a while to find it, but it didn't seem to be too promising. It just seemed to be a bit of rubble on the bottom, like someone's kind of just thrown a bunch of stuff on the sea floor, and it's kind of accumulated a little bit of fish life. But other than some cods, a few small nanny guy, there wasn't really much around. And so after that, we punched out to some of the rocky boulders where we find generally nice finger mark, and if you're lucky, a barra might just be sitting there as well. And so you can see those finger marks schooling up in front of me. None of them are too big on this day. We just saw a couple school-sized ones, and kind of took my time just before shooting the first one I saw. I was hoping potentially there might be a bigger one that just wasn't showing itself yet. After diving that spot for a bit, we moved off to another location where these big boulders kind of come together and create these massive caves where we've had luck with big barras before, and they just make really good structures for all kinds of fish. And we didn't really have too much luck inside the big caves, but as we cruised off into the sandy bits, we kind of found some barra hanging off a little bit deeper, and I managed to put a pretty good shot into one, but unfortunately my spear actually came right out. I hit him in the spine and I saw him sort of flutter on the bottom, and luckily Ricky was right next to me and he went straight down and managed to just put a second shot into this fish. And he wasn't going anywhere as I'd spined him, but it was always just good to have that backup shot. And unfortunately I didn't get it on video as it all happened pretty quickly, but luckily we landed the first barra and came in to be a pretty decent one as well, so I was pretty stoked with that fish. After that, the goal was to get Ricky onto a barra, and we saw a few more cruising around that sandy bottom, and Ricky couldn't quite get close enough to one. But on this dive, it was a bit weird because in the moment I didn't really know what the barra was doing, but you can kind of see there's one just sitting there and he's not really moving around. It sort of just looks like he's sitting on the sand, and I came up to the surface, called Ricky over, but he was already gone by the time he got there. And so Ricky instead got this big finger mark, put the light straight out on him, and that was actually the biggest finger mark of the day. For the last dive of the day, we went back to one of the shallower wrecks where you can see pretty big finger mark very often, and occasionally the odd barramundi. It was pretty dark at this point, visibility was quite poor, and yeah, it's very hard to see what we were looking at, but I actually came across a pretty big barra, and he's just sitting right there. And I spooked him at first, but I sort of just stayed calm, stayed still, and very often if you do that, they actually come back out of curiosity. And this one did come back, but unluckily for me, I just managed to completely miss the fish. And even though I missed on this dive, I actually went down on the next dive, and I believe it would have been the same fish that I landed, but for some reason the GoPro timed out and I didn't get any of it on footage, but it was a pretty decent barra. And then that finished off the day for us. So a bunch of good crayfish, some big barras, and a couple nice finger mark.